when Jesse was talking about sunglasses and Chris wearing sunglasses. This was, again, almost 2 years ago.
False alarm. I thought that help was here. It was my own reassurance bouncing round 100,000 times in my own ecosphere. If every time you speak you keep it off the record, consequently you can keep your record clear. And if you mute the speech that shakes your frail beliefs, you only seek to insulate your image and continue down the stream in the direction clout and credit steers. Directly from your mouth into am I the asshole Reddit's ears. Directly back into the greasy pockets of some Gates Foundation financiers, and then directly back into the frantic final thoughts of early trial Neuralink volunteers, staring at the numb and mumbling vacancies where recently it fed their peers, half of whom are glitching with the memory stuck on pause, and half have zero fucking clue just who they are or why they're here. It's been said that fear is all we have to fear, but that was back before the basosphere condenser came along, distilling concentrated fear that's diamond pure, crystal clear, oppressor strong, and woven into every single article you read and song they let you hear. And then Elon heard that Jeff enhanced our fears by 86%, and he said, hold my beer. And not a single sheep among the herd would turn their head or say a word, cause they were all too busy begging for the shears, begging for the muzzle, happy just to guzzle, feed, and watch a screen for all their years. Man, to each his own, can't afford a home, but they'll let you have your cozy little ecosphere, where there among your own devices you can break the seventh seal, overthrow the oracles and slay the seer. All the tomes were burned and all the lips were seared. Shut your eyes and all our lives just disappear. Now blink 'em twice. Welcome to your ecosphere.
You know, sir, I like you much better with my glasses off.
I guess I was born with the curse of foresight, cause I knew Joe was only gonna represent the war side. And that said, I just came to fight. You could keep the or flight. Save the surprise and the gasp when the shadow of the fascists have cast is on your doorstep in the glow of your porch light. Save the surprise when the grid goes down and we go underground to lick wounds in the gloom of a torchlight. While up in the sky, a blimp glides by with a sign like New Year's 2022. Brought to you jointly by Pfizer and Coors Light. While the centrists observe from a comfortable courtside, right in the thick of the action behind a partition. We're in a morbid position, a plague of evictions, born a comorbid condition of the cancer of wealth. I fantasize that I cancel myself. Hands on your head, throw your best laid plans in the well. There are no more answers, questions go back on the shelf. All Joe's donors, a quick show of hands. How many of you sub to the Lockheed Martin OnlyFans? How many are loyalist patrons for the Raytheon Patreon? Occupy Iraq and send 1 million off into the great beyond. Cool yourself with the safety on. True to yourself in as much as you dutifully spew out a mucus of QAnon. You can't convince me the capital wasn't surrendered with every intention of digging us deeper down into the treacherous webbing of censorship, ebbing your speech and dissension so you can't hold Biden accountable. Not in his mentions and not in the streets. Know to the end that Joe will defend the elite. Joe won't embarrass McConnell, but Joe's not embarrassed if all of your children are hungry and weak. Too hungry to speak, too hungry to stay and they just lie at his feet. Joe is fresh out of empathy, fresh out of policy, but he'd love to know, what was your favorite ice cream flavor to eat? Back when you used to eat. I guess the road isn't rocky for people who thought we were free. They'll believe what they read and Joe's here to lull them to sleep. counting us down by the dozens, the culling of gullible sheep, led to the slaughter by media tyrants and government thieves. These are the leeches that stubbornly suck where there's nothing to bleed. These are the tumors that force us to crawl on our knees. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave.
That's what it was. Father's Day. I was like, maybe I don't want to open Twitter today, and then I did, and I saw the figure out the draft. Yep, sure.
Oh, dude, I saw one.
Now what you're following, that's idolatry, that's just faith. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not faith. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our graves. The kings of colony know no policy, only rape. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. And we say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. All hail economy, praise the pharmacy, seas in flames. They're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire, and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities where melted down communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private, and they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sword of pity, next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickle down your wheels. And Biden's here to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote, like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat, like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class were cleared away. When home insurance triples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina and they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. You see, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game, the planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, then there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, if you truly know our past, but it ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last, where Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, are barricaded in and left for ash.
How many in Lahaina now are lying there awake and still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake? They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed from above to stay in place. So look to the horizon, 'cause a fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few who instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do.
Have just this. I don't know. That's what I'm
Yeah.
Nothing cracking.
Yeah. Sort of.
That's just my yeah. That's just my hands. I did that rhythmically
Wait, turns out I have something else to say. But words have let us all down. We are in the waste now. If we choose to lay down, let them bring our wage down. Nancy, once you face down, pray. If you find resilience in your faith, it's on all of us to lead the way. It takes all of us to lift the weight. We were told it's normal and required that we suffocate. Wait, I will not be carried to my grave in perfect health and perfectly awake. The earth is not the sweetest of escapes, but the surface is a merciless and purpose-sicken place. Don't stay. Tell him that he doesn't have to stay. Hold his hand and let him slip away. There is nothing here that's worth the wait. Nothing good is waiting in the wings. Don't stay. Oh, don't stay. Don't stay.
It's just frozen in time, frozen in time. Only so much shot through the eyes, shot through the eyes. Lives just frozen in time, frozen in time. Only so much shot through the eyes, shot through the eyes.
Good morning, Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning.
We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face.
Nancy gonna cut you a check too late. 2 years after your funeral's paid, 2 years after the grave, she'll be a little stronger for all of the dollars she saved. Watching you wake, watching you cling to your family slipping away. Watch her do nothing but pray. Watch her condemn the Republicans, take them to brunch and then shrug it away. Now watch us be outraged half of a day, then pick a new hero to face our leaders and think they could beat them, playing the game they played since Pelosi had real human blood in her veins. They're all one and the same, sold off stocks and they all maintain that the risk was benign and the virus was tame. Flash forward in 40 Sunday mornings fade, 250,000 people in its wake, and the cruise ship sailed.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? You know who these people are.
We'll do it live.
Yep. I guess we're gonna. Oh, yeah, install Construct the Bank Sisters. That's right. Yes. Courtney and Keish are in there. I miss them too. No sound. What? What? Uh-oh. I think that must be... No, that must be you guys. Okay, there we go. Okay.
We'll do it live.
Thank you. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Good. Hi, everybody. It's Sunday night. What a crazy week. Another crazy week. Holy crap. Anything happened this week?
Wild and crazy weeks.
Anything happened this week? Not much. Like, it was just calm and stuff. No news or, you know,
no.
Holy
no. World War III hasn't quite started.
It's on its way. Maybe. Quite possibly. We'll see. What else is happening? Sunday. Well, yeah, because we've got ships that are on their way to the Middle East. They're already there. That's a little scary. We've got a lot of chest pounding and a lot of bluster and a lot of loud talk, and it's not healthy and it's not good. It's not looking out. Yeah, nothing to report exactly, Saul. So this is How Do We Miss That, as you see down in the corner. I am Indy. That is Reef over there. We're going to get to some stories. This is Indie News Network, where we amplify independent journalists. Most importantly, we support independent media. We are totally user-funded. We really appreciate the people that hang out in chat. They are the people that make this network and this channel what it is. And without you guys, we don't really exist. I mean, we would do this even if it was just us. We started out just us, but man, we really need all that support that you can give us. So we really appreciate that. We got that QR code up there. We talked about this last week, but we're gonna have the Zago brothers create some cartoon art. They've gotten already about 15 Indie Media Award honorees they had done on this poster called Truth Tellers. Hey, how about that? IndieMediaAwards.substack.com. You can see the whole list. But those are the best of the best in independent media, from live streamers to journalists to outlets and video creators. We have a list with all of their links and ways to find and support them. And we're going to do something special this year. We teamed up with Zago Brothers to create cartoon illustrations of each Indie Media Award honoree, and even some people to represent some of the outlets. We were trying to figure out what to do. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And so that's what the QR code and the Ko-fi is going to go towards, is supporting that with Zago and paying him for his time and for his work. So we have just a few stories to get to, but man, the UAW, what the hell is going on at the UAW? We're going to talk about that last. Payday Report and Mike Elk have done an amazing job of keeping up, and it's not just them. World Socialist website has also done a really good job of keeping this feet to the flame and make sure that what's happening with the federal monitor is being reported out there, and that we try to get some better leadership and representation toward the bosses. I mean, because obviously, and I'm going to show a whole lot of reasons why Sean Fain and UAW leadership ain't it. All right. Then we're going to also talk about, of course, mass censorship is here again. We talked about Ali Abu Nima in Germany last week. This week, we're going to talk about CJ Hopkins in Germany, who we've talked about before. And then the other one we're going to laugh a little bit about, Nicolas Maduro. Now, that's an even crazier story because of what's still developing tonight. So we'll talk about that and what happened in Venezuela. I was also on both Hardlens Media on Friday and Politically Homeless on Thursday night. Published an article about Kamala Harris and about the anointment and how upset it, not just upset, but just how weird it is for the Democrats to project that they're saving democracy while they're anointing a candidate that nobody voted for. I didn't want to read that tonight. I didn't want to get into any of that. So if anybody wants to go to indiemediatoday.com, it's gotten a lot of buzz. It's gotten a lot of views and a lot of comments, a lot of shares. I really appreciate that. And a bunch of new signups. So welcome to the people that are there, that have come in, and appreciate you giving us a shout and giving us a shot. So yeah, we're going to talk about these 3 stories tonight. Reef, what you had a busy week too.
Bit of one. Had Vanessa Beeley on
Right.
last Wednesday. Clips are going out for that. So look out for those all week. Make sure to hit the likes and subscribes on those. What else did I do? I feel like there was a bunch of other stuff, but I know Colin did a couple of appearances.
Yeah, Colin was on with Marcus Cage earlier today. So yeah, it's been a busy week. But yeah, all right. So let's
Nico House.
Yes, that was last week. But yeah, there were a couple of clips that Nico put out with him that were great. All right, let's get to CJ Hopkins. So if everyone remembers, and we've spoken about CJ Hopkins before, you got to probably bring it up on your screen because I don't want to. Although we're doing all right. So CJ has been prosecuted. We know, like, how long have we been covering this story? For like almost 2 years now. He first got served with charges in Germany because of a book cover that he published called about the new normal, where he had a surgical mask that had the picture of a swastika very faintly in the middle of it to show that they're using.
Or what? You messed up my camera again. You messed up the camera again. Mess it up again.
Oh, come on.
Is it the wrong spot again? Is it this wrong spot? No, I gotta don't be over here, I think.
How is this happening?
Am I over? Where am I at? Over here?
There you're at. How is that happening? Okay, let's hold on. I have to go to studio mode. But now we have to go to guest one aggregate. And we have to change that.
I just noticed it when you switched cameras.
Well, I'm so glad you did. And there we go. Now you're out of the way. Okay. Now we're good. All right. CJ. The People's Court of the New Normal Germany. Now, it's funny because he used the word new normal because it's the rise of the new normal Reich, I believe, is what he had originally called his piece. So you see the jackbooted thug cops already standing outside the courthouse there. So he got sued and brought into court for a violation of hate speech, which then got summarily dismissed in court. All right.
Right.
And he won his trial. Like, he was going to get fined and serve 60 days in prison. He appealed and he won the appeal. Well, they appealed to a higher court, and now either that or they served him with a new set of charges. But he says, my second trial for alleged thought crime tweeting is going ahead as planned August 15th in Berlin Superior Court. Superior Court now. Full-blown anti-terrorism security protocols will be in effect in the courtroom. Yes, that's right. The Berlin Superior Court denied my attorney's motion to rescind their special security order. So the German authorities will be putting an elaborate show of force, which everyone is welcome to attend. I'd love CJ Hopkins. He's so damn snarky. You know, he may not be right all the time, and he certainly wants to punch everybody in the mouth, but he's funny. He says, or actually, according to the security order, only 35 people are welcome to attend. That's one of the anti-terrorism security protocols. Also, if you do attend, you'll have to surrender all of your personal possessions, i.e. notebooks and phones, wallets, pens and pencils, and other writing instruments. I don't know what those might be. Wristwatches, hats, and other head coverings. Oof. Okay, I guess no Muslim people are going to go. And any outerwear. And totally empty your pockets of all items. Basically, you're going to get stripped naked? Down to your underwear? Is that how they're going to... Okay. Presumably into a plastic bin like the ones
Seems very German,
use at airport security, all right, which the court security personnel will carry away and store somewhere while you attend the trial. I'm sure they won't try to download anything off your devices either. and which the Superior Court
No.
expressly denies any liability for your items. How nice. Once you've surrendered all your possessions and have been body scanned and metal detected and possibly physically patted down, you'll be admitted into room 145A, where you'll have to sit in the rear 5 rows of the gallery behind a presumably bulletproof security barrier so that the security staff can monitor you during the proceedings. Oh boy. All right. This is a short one. This isn't going to be very long. He says, okay, I know what you're thinking. The Superior Court's security order is not at all intended to prevent members of the press from attending and reporting on the trial. No, not at all. Members of the press are absolutely welcome. It's just that they'll have to surrender their cameras and phones and their pens and other writing instruments to the security staff before they enter the courtroom. But they're welcome to attend and report on the trial. The security personnel will even provide them with pencils, presumably those little child-sized pencils like the ones that you get at the golf course, like when you're playing mini golf, which are harder to use as Jason Bourne-style stabbing weapons, and sheets of paper they can position on their knees and attempt to make notes during the trial. Now I'm thinking of Men in Black. You know the scene of Will Smith when he's sitting in the egg and they're all trying to drag to the table. He scrapes the whole thing, the table across the floor. You want to get down on this? It's very funny. All right.
Those are what we like to call Yahtzee pencils. Those little pencils.
Okay. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Namaste.
They come in your
Gold
little
Star.
cup
Good to
of
see you.
Yahtzee.
Right. Right. Same goes for all you members of the public, of course. The security order is not in any way intended to discourage you from attending the trial or to intimidate or humiliate you by subjecting you to pointless security protocols. Let me close that. And it's going to go off all night. Come on. There it is. And treating you like
Windows updates.
No, it's Facebook stuff. And thank you, Fred Edward, for sharing.
Yep.
It's a bunch of people sharing and liking and commenting, but we don't want those. But all right. The security order, of course, is not intended in any way to discourage you from attending the trial if you're in the public, or to intimidate or humiliate you by subjecting you to pointless security protocols and treating you like suspected terrorists just because you're going to show up to watch this thing. No, you're absolutely welcome to attend. You just might want to think about what to bring with you. Sharp objects, probably not a good idea. Likewise, anything the court might construe to be a camera or an audio recording device, that's no. The security order is clear about that. There is to be no photographic or audio record of the proceedings. Why do you think that is, Reef?
Well, I'm gonna go with capitalism as a standard, but I'm sure there's other reasons. Like,
I can't think of any. I mean, other than that they don't want whatever's going to be said in that courtroom by their people to get out publicly and be recorded.
yes,
He says, indefinitely.
Yeah.
Do not bring any state-of-the-art terrorist wiretapping technology with you. The court is particularly worried about that stuff.
such as a tape recorder.
Right.
Don't bring that.
Hence the need to subject everyone to TSA-style body scanning and pat-downs and to confiscate their personal possessions, i.e. to ensure that no one smuggles in some sort of remotely activated wiretapping technology that will infect the judge's smartphones with some kind of untraceable surveillance software that will secretly record everything they say and transmit to Tehran or Moscow or wherever. Or all three, maybe Beijing. It could be Beijing. You probably think I'm joking, but I'm not.
Keep it secret.
Right? I'm not. Here's how one of the Superior Court judges justified the court's security order in his denial of our motion to have the order rescinded. Ready for this one? He says, I cannot see the unreasonable restriction of the press and your defense that you are concerned about, nor any violation of the guarantee of a fair trial. Okay. I admit that the restrictions imposed by the security order are quite significant. However, they are by no means unreasonable. They're objectively required both by the overall tense security situation, e.g., publicly announced threats of attacks against judges of the Superior Court, yeah, but not by CJ or anyone connected to him, and the increased special security requirements in at least one criminal trial conducted in the same courtroom. Well, then move courtrooms. Oh, since only the courtroom in question is assigned to the criminal division and the other divisions as a permanent courtroom, and a regular search of the courtroom following every session is using suitable technology for recently introduced wiretapping technology represents an objectively unjustifiable burden. Its introduction must be prevented from the outset if possible. Wait a minute. So they're already sweeping the room after every single thing, but they're still not going to let anybody in just because they might bring it in, even though they're sweeping it, because they might then find something, but they're not going to. Anyway, okay. Even after the strip search and. Nothing to see here. Insane. Yes, you read that judge's explanation right. Apparently, the court is worried that my readers, or maybe members of the German independent press, might be planning to launch an attack on the judges, presumably with their phones and writing instruments, and possibly their head coverings and outerwear, for example, their scarves, which I suppose in the hands of trained terrorist assassins could be used to strangle them, but who would wear scarves in the summertime anyway? Okay. In any event, they clearly believe that an overall tense security situation exists. Yeah, because they exacerbated everything by going after the Palestinian protesters, and they clamped down on an authoritarian state.
In that case, you can't wear sleeves or pants because trained jiu-jitsu practitioners can use those.
I told you you got to wear you got to wear
hoodies. You
got to wear a singlet. All right.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Yeah. No gi rash guards is what is needed.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
ridiculous. Sure.
So yeah, the score. Right. So in any event, they clearly believe that an overall tense security situation exists, one which necessitates these anti-terrorism security protocols at the trial of a 62-year-old playwright, author, and political satirist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I probably.
Oh no, he's gonna draw a cartoon.
He's gonna write. That snark is just really biting, man. He's gonna bite with that snark. Is what he's gonna do.
Drop the pen. Drop the pen and step away from the typewriter.
Well, I don't want to get him in trouble
Step away from the typewriter.
Okay, the keyboard. Yes. Okay, I probably should have mentioned earlier, for the benefit of anyone not familiar with my case, I'm not a terrorist or in any way terrorist adjacent. I'm just an author and a political satirist. The German authorities are prosecuting me because I criticized them and their COVID mask mandates. As I explained in my most recent column, quote, the German authorities have been investigating and prosecuting me since August of 2022. Like I said, 2 years we've been covering this. My case has been covered in The Atlantic, Racket News, Süddeutsche Zeitung, Multipolar, and many other outlets, including How Do We Miss That? Basically, I'm being prosecuted for spreading pro-Nazi propaganda because I criticized the COVID mask mandates and tweeted the cover artwork of one of my books, The Rise of the New Normal Reich. Here's the cover artwork of that book. The other two images are recent covers of Der Spiegel and Stern, two well-known mainstream German magazines, which are not being prosecuted for spreading pro-Nazi propaganda. Which is which?
Right to jail, right away.
Which is which? The Der Spiegel one literally is way more egregious than this one. But this one literally is just showing that they were using those kind of tactics. But this is crazy. All right. He says, my punishment for doing that, i.e. criticizing the COVID mask mandates and not spreading Nazi propaganda, has been, well, here I am on trial again in the People's Court of New Normal Germany. The German authorities had my tweets censored by Twitter.
Just his photo, you can barely see anything. And it's like the Der Spiegel one is just literally like
draped,
German flag.
Draped in a German flag.
Right. Yeah, whatever. Sorry, I got caught up. Anyway.
Okay. The German authorities had my tweets censored by Twitter They reported me to the Federal Criminal Police Office, which is kind of the German FBI. They reported me to the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, Germany's domestic intelligence agency. My book is banned in Germany. They have damaged my income and reputation as an author. They have forced me to spend thousands of euros in attorney's fees and defend myself against these blatantly trumped-up charges. And now they're going to subject me and my attorney and anyone who attends my trial to this humiliating, ham-fisted official show of force. Because they lost last time. If you're an American or a Brit or Australian or whatever, and you're thinking this is just a story about Germany or the EU, well, I'm sorry, this isn't. My case is just one of countless examples of the criminalization of dissent that's happening throughout the West. Yeah, like Julian Assange, like a lot of other people. Ola Binney. A lot of Americans don't realize it, but freedom of speech is protected in the German Constitution, just like it is supposed to be here. He says, my story is not about differences between the German and American freedom of speech protections. It is about the authorities prosecuting government critics like me on fabricated charges, banning our books, and censoring our political speech. Do we see that happening anywhere else? No?
At a few places.
Once a government starts doing that, the protections in its constitution no longer matter. You are no longer dealing with questions of the law. You're dealing with an exercise of authoritarian power. That's what this story is about. Any Americans and other non-Germans who've been paying attention to recent events will recognize what I'm talking about. As I've been saying repeatedly for the last 4 years or so, the global capitalist power system, or the corporatocracy, or the powers that be, or whatever name you call it, he's called it Globocap, is going totalitarian on us. It dominates the entire planet, so it doesn't have anything else to do. It's conducting a global clear and hold op. It's neutralizing internal resistance and any and all forms of internal resistance. That means this show too, by the way. The criminalization of dissent is an essential part of that. Well, not the Last American Vagabond, anyone? All right. I've been documenting this process in my columns and in my books, and specifically in The Rise of the New Normal Reich, which you can read unless, of course, you live in Germany, so forgive me if I don't rehash it all here. The point is...
Well, looks like we got ourselves a reader.
Thank you, Bill Hicks. May you rest in peace. And glad you're not around to see this shit show of an abomination. But
oh my God,
his
the
point,
scream I could hear now in my head.
His point is, we are not in Kansas anymore. All the democracy and rule of law stuff is all over. It's being gradually, if not, and not so gradually, phased out. I get that most people don't believe that. Most people won't until it's too late. That's how these transitions generally work. Most people can't see what's coming until it gets here. I see it not because I'm a prophet, but I'm just a loudmouth, and the loudmouths can get crushed first. Oh boy, that means we're both in deep, deep trouble. Anyway.
I'm in danger.
Oh my goodness, I'm in danger. Anyway, if you're in Berlin on August 15th and would like to observe the People's Court of New Normal Germany in action, or just get groped by a German law enforcement officer for free, the trial is scheduled to start at 10:30 a.m. That's of course German time, Central Europe. Seating is on a first-come, first-served basis. I'm guessing there won't be 35 to show, but maybe. I hope so. So you may want to show up a little early, given all the scanning and screening and groping and the overall tense security situation. And here's the address. Ursulhofstrasse. Yes, I've been to Munich before. And
Wallaby Way, Sydney.
all right. Support CJ Hopkins. I love him. He's an Indie Media Award honoree, by the way, also. Love that guy. Even when I disagree with him, I love him. We need more cranks and curmudgeons like him. And visionaries, as he would deny that he is one, but he'll tongue-in-cheek say it. Right. Yeah, Yep. 21 watching. Hit the like. Yeah. Hell yeah. Hit the like. Absolutely. Thank you for that shout out on T-Lav. Dr. Donnie's here. All right. All right. Crying Grim. Wait a minute. Is that, no, that's not the right Crying Grim, but what's up, dude? Okay. We have a real Crying Grim. That's Rich Slutsky, but he didn't publish anything yet this week. Go check out his Counterspin, Lies, Damn Lies, and Spin on Substack. Team Orca's here. Cynic is here. See my chair. Be right there. Good. Don't miss it. Yeah, we got to limit shampoo sizes. Absolutely. That's right. That's definitely the way to save the Republic, Jeff Thomas Black. Thank you. Much appreciated. Good to see you, man. Appreciate your support. JD Vance is my Mary Kay. Okay. That's pretty damn funny. Scorts only. Okay, just being funny tonight. This is definitely a support group tonight. Crying Grim is certainly being cucked by Billy. If we're going to talk about Crying Grim tonight, he's going to cry a little bit. Cucked by billionaires, corporations, and the Democratic Party. Any advice? Yeah, we got plenty of advice for him, but we got a conflict of interest too. That's going to be fun. But we're going to talk about, we're going to read an article from Laura Kay talking about Maduro. But it's funny, I got an alert today on my phone from, and I don't know why, I'm on the Apple, I have an iPhone, so I get like Apple News alerts. Washington Post that Nicolas Maduro has officially lost the election and they've retabulated the stuff. and Eduardo Gonzalez is now the Juan Guaido president, anointed by the United States. Holy crap. International observers, tons of them were there. It was a more secure election than anything that's ever happened. And okay, yeah. All the evidence comes from Edison Research, a U.S. State Department, NED, USAID, CIA connected firm. That's the only one that's reporting this. But sure.
And it wouldn't have anything to do with Venezuela's reserves of oil and gold, but
oil.
That's what I know.
We're gonna take the oil. We're gonna get the oil. We're gonna get the oil. All right. So our friend Laura Kay, who is one of the greatest satirists of.
I love gold.
Well, and I love her. I love Laura. She's great. So she's one of the funniest writers there is on Substack, and most people don't know about her yet, but they should. She writes that the CIA is furious that Maduro is still Venezuelan president despite getting the most votes. Well, maybe she spoke a little too soon, but I certainly hope not. I think that there are some in the U.S. government that would hysterically like it to be that way, and why we're meddling in other people's elections I still don't quite understand, except that the CIA doesn't like there to be an election they're not really involved in. So let's make fun of the CIA losing its shit and losing an election that it tried to rig for its candidate and now is trying to manufacture consent for instead because it lost. So, CIA furious Maduro's still Venezuelan president despite getting the most votes. Venezuela's doing democracy all wrong. CIA has reacted with disappointment after the world's largest oil reserves ended up with the wrong leader again. In a shock result, Nicolas Maduro has monstrously imposed himself on the people of Venezuela despite getting more votes than the other candidate. All the countries that want Venezuela's oil have called the credibility of the election into question. Remember, it's only wrong to question the outcome of U.S. elections, and a January 6th in Venezuela would be good, actually. Snarky. Not really, YouTube. We're joking. The Venezuelan Supreme Court wouldn't even allow the woman who was funded by the State Department onto the ballot, but it did allow a socialist onto the ballot. The party that rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders said This is not how democracy is supposed to function.
Yeah, the ones that anointed a new dictator.
Thankfully, well, the Democrats were backed by the UK Prime Minister, who is incapable of formulating a foreign policy without speaking to the White House first. Sir Keir Starmer would like you to know that the 900 international election observers who ratified the result are all wrong, and Maduro needs to be punished. A Downing Street spokesman said, quote,
he's been such a bad boy.
We are going to do to this guy what we would love to do to Jeremy Corbyn. Uh-huh. One of the White House spokespeople who deny the Gaza genocide has expressed deep concern about the human rights situation over there. I'm going to read that line again because I love Laura's snark and wit, and that just punches you right in the gut. One of the White House spokespeople, Karine Jean-Pierre, who denied the Gaza genocide, has expressed deep concern about the human rights situation over there. Maybe that's John Kirby. All right. Clearly, the CIA has no choice but to export democracy before Venezuela does a trade deal with China or something. Oh, wait. We announced that on Thursday night. They are doing a joint venture with China. Yes, thank you. As everyone knows, the CIA has the world's best track record when it comes to exporting democracy. It magically noticed the Venezuelan elections were fraudulent the moment a result it didn't like was announced. Actually, they noticed it a month before and said they were going to call it fraudulent beforehand. It then accused Maduro of meddling in the election process, something the CIA would never do.
It's never, ever done that before.
Nope. If the CIA's candidate won, these elections would have been totally legit and proof that Venezuelans were ready to embrace being a satellite state. As it stands, people need to be punished. I mean, liberated for not letting the CIA choose their leader. Everyone can see.
All this talk of punishment.
Oh, my goodness.
Like a 50 Shades of Grey novel. Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm just saying. You know?
Well.
Like, what are they going to tie up democracy next? What are we... You know what I mean?
They just might. Well, everyone can see that the guy who attracted crowds of tens of thousands of adoring fans is much worse than the alternative of death squads slaughtering union leaders and activists, right? The U.S. wants what's best for Latin America, which is why it only installs the nicest puppets, such as General Augusto Pinochet and Janine Áñez, right? They're great. Juan Guaido. Let's not forget Juan.
He's my favorite.
CIA is still sad. Well, Juan. Oh, poor Juan. I think he's already still offering to be president right now. CIA
Venezuela, man, that's nice of him.
Again, CIA is still sad. Serve a second term. Unreal. This is real life, dude. CIA is still sad after it failed to save the Bolivian people from democracy. I mean, this dictatorship. So now it's looking forward to getting it right this time. Juan Guaido is, like I said, excited. This could finally be his moment. Fingers crossed. Everyone in Venezuela just said, who the fuck is Juan Guaido? But if you don't support the CIA's puppet, right? I can only assume you hate democracy.
Definitely.
Socialism, of course, collapsed the Venezuelan...
I definitely hate democracy.
Well, we all do. That's right. But socialism, we know, collapsed the Venezuelan economy. Just ask Donald Trump. The moment the U.S. started its well-meaning sanctions that killed 40,000 people. All Venezuelans fondly remember the days before socialism when neoliberalism kept them much, much poorer, and they're desperate to return to that. Oh, man. Well, CIA, therefore, is keen to encourage Venezuelans to riot and pretend Maduro is murdering them so it has an excuse to intervene. Violent crackdowns on rioters are unacceptable unless they're taking place in the U.S., in which case...
Or the UK.
What else would we do? Well, she wrote this before that happened today.
Yes, I'm sure she would include if that was happening.
I'm sure she would. But she says, of all of the people who mildly disapprove of Biden's genocide, but vote Democrat anyway, agree that Nicolas Maduro is exactly where they draw the line. This man is much worse than any U.S. leader, even Trump. And he needs to be overthrown. Authoritarian socialist I saw today. I almost spit a drink out. All right. His crimes include surviving CIA assassination attempts, demanding that Israel stop its genocide, and not letting Western companies plunder the world's largest oil reserves. Another one that was funny was a moment from Thursday night on Politically Homeless when Himbo brought a video. Somebody's claiming that, again, this is from like an Orinoco thing, but it was a clearly a CIA front organization run by Trots. All right. And they were saying that, Maduro is a capitalist because he made a deal with Chevron and that they're not completely socialist. So therefore he's a capitalist and he's a problem. Authoritarian too. Right. Again, first thing they mentioned was oil. Then they called Maduro a capitalist, but they're totally not connected to the CIA. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. Well, Maduro even spoke of invading Guyana once, and talking about an invasion is much worse than actually doing one. Fucking warmonger. Yeah. We love Laura Kay. We love Normal Island News. They're one of the best Substacks out there. NormalIslandNews.co.
Hold on. Love's a strong word. I don't know if I'm ready for that commitment yet.
Oh no, I'm beyond.
I think
committed.
we're just friends right now.
No, I think you might just be dating. Oh, she didn't even put her name in there that she tagged it. Sometimes they do that, but Laura wrote it clearly. It's her snark, and only she can write like that. NormalIsland.co.uk, because she wants to live on a normal island and report Normal Island news, and this is certainly Normal Island news. So yeah, support independent media, support Laura Kay. She has Ko-fi. So you can go hook her up with Ko-fi. I don't think she even is set up with a paid subscriptions on Substack itself. I think she doesn't like Stripe. I don't blame her. Do-do-do-do. That's right. On a Substack. Do-do-do-do. Man, we have got a lot of UAW stuff to get to, and it's gonna get a little wonky. But let's say hi to everyone before we do that. Yes, Juan Guaido. Oh, come on, go start, man. We're gonna go there already. I saw Anna Mares is here. Howdy, beautiful people.
Juan.
Good to see you, Juan Guaido. All right. Amadou Baraka was one of those international observers. That's right, Amos. So was Rania Khalek.
He's like one of those Argentinian Jewish presidents.
No, he's
you know what I mean.
Guaido, I think he's Ecuadorian.
Cries at the Wailing Wall.
Venezuelan. Oh no, I know what you're doing. You're talking about Javier Milei.
Right.
Milei, who just gave away all of the gold in Argentina and a lot worse. Yeah, so was Alan McLeod, by the way. We got to see how tall Alan was, and he's obviously pretty tall. He has legs. I had never seen anything more than like from the chest up. So good shout out to Alan McLeod. Another indie media award honoree, one of the best of the best.
I thought he was just a Highlander. You know?
He might be.
There can be only one.
He very well might be a Highlander.
McLeod.
Who's Reach Side Piece? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So we're gonna get into that. Got a good group of people here. Again, support independent media. We're killing it over at INN. Let me just show you real quick. I'm like so crazy this week. We have a lot happening. More than even usual. What do I mean? We have 11 streams scheduled at the moment. And that assumes that we're going to pull off boats next and Reef's not going to have a hurricane between now and then. But
yeah, it should be fine, hopefully, as long as Florida Power and Light decides to, bless us with working well.
7 nights a week. I heard that, by the way. 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
We're going to have some content and some live streams. This is in addition to the clips that go out from all the different shows. So the one that I'm most excited about all week is the Thursday night 8:00 show. Is going to be Palestine Unity Panel with Anti-War and INN. We haven't done one in about 6 months with them, and they reached out and were like, "Hey, you want to do another one?" I've been talking about doing one for a while, and we got Scott Horton to commit, and I'm going to join Misty and Scott Horton, and we're going to talk about what's going on there for an hour on Thursday night at 8. Can't wait for that. Really, that's something that's just going to be a highlight of my month for sure. And we're going to replay the American Tradition from last Tuesday night this Tuesday. We'll see if there's anything else that pops up between now and then. But this is what I've got on the calendar. And so support INN. You can go to indienews.network and you get all the links. This is what indienews.network looks like. It's a list of all the links to all the different channels to subscribe and support every day. All the Ko-fi, Cash App, all those. Even some articles to read, as well as all of the podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to download and listen to on your phone or wherever you listen to podcasts. So that also includes this show. This show is a podcast. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. And hey, Horton here's a Who Are These People? You know what? We're going to be doing another, we talked on Tuesday night about on American Tradition that we're going to do another Utah Phillips and Dr. Seuss, and we're going to call it Suta, which is kind of funny. Shout out to Jesse. Jesse is Jesse's played pre-show, and he shouted out all the time on Hardlands. We love it. We really appreciate Kit for doing that. So yeah, the more we can get Jesse Jett out there and the more people know about Jesse Jett, the better it is. All right, so let's get to the UAW. Holy moly. Mike Elk from Payday Report is one of the better independent reporters out there. He's been doing this a long time, reporting on unions and reporting on rank and file worker perspective and their attempts to organize against the bosses. He tends to sometimes get a little pro rah-rah about the union leadership itself, but I think that he's really starting to figure it all out, especially about the UAW. And we've been talking a lot about Shawn Fain and the UAW and how the Federal Monitor has been charging them with withholding documents, but also with corruption. And now with last week, we talked about how they were
Corruption.
How they were punishing and potential that employees were afraid to speak out for fear of retaliation by senior management. All right, so now we hear that the Federal Monitor is investigating his purge of top allies while a convicted felon steers UAW legal. Wait, a convicted felon? Yeah, that's also happening. Huh? Yes, a convicted felon.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that.
So I want to,
depending on what the felony is.
this article is long. I will say it's broken up into 4 parts, and he's got it sectioned off. And we're going to go section by section, and then we'll take a little break in between and talk about them because they're a little bit different for each one. Let's go back here. All right. First part is about the Federal Monitor. So he says this month, the UAW Federal Monitor, Neil Borofsky, accused the UAW, which is under a federal consent decree, of refusing to turn over documents regarding the demotion of UAW Secretary Treasurer Margaret Mock and UAW Vice President Rich Boyer. Again, this is the same thing that we've been talking about, that they blew the whistle and said that during the stand-up strike, they were making promises to the workers that they knew they weren't able to keep. All right. Payday Report has now learned that that UAW President Shawn Fain's top legal advisor, Nathaniel Charney, is a convicted felon who pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice charges for hiding information regarding embezzlement in the Teamsters in the 1990s. 25 years later, Charney and his legal team are accused again of hiding information from the union's membership. Do we see a pattern here?
As we always do.
The Federal Monitor seeks to obtain thousands of internal union emails regarding the purge of some UAW President Shawn Fain's top allies, including, like we said, Secretary of Treasurer Margaret Mock and VP of Stellantis, Rich Boyer, but of course the UAW has resisted. A court-ordered confidential survey of several hundred UAW staffers showed that 40% of the UAW staffers feared retaliation if they spoke about problems within the UAW. Again, we covered this last week. Borowski, who won praise from many progressives for his role as the special inspector for TARP, which, if you remember, was that, just after the bailouts in the 2008 congressional thing, they had him as a special inspector to make sure that the money was being paid back or being used appropriately. All right. That was during the Obama administration. He's facing a smear attack from Ryan Grimm. You know Ryan Grimm?
Oh. Unfortunately.
Autopilot.
I'd like to not.
Previously of The Intercept.
Sunshine of the spotless mind, that'd be nice.
Currently of Breaking Points, or whatever his Breaking the Point, or whatever his stupid show is over there, on top of, here you go, Counterpoint. He's going to mention that. Now he just launched his own, recently launched his own publication, Drop Site News, with Jeremy Scahill. I've got a lot to say about that too. We can talk about it. We're going to cover that in another night. But Grimm is a progressive superstar with over 350,000 followers on Twitter, and is the host of the hit web show Counterpoint, which has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. That's not really fair.
Can you stop embarrassing yourself?
That's not really fair to say, because Counterpoint doesn't have 1 million. Breaking Points does.
No.
And Counterpoint is a Friday afternoon show or something, a one show out of the entire network that they claim. Now, Grimm recently won praise for questioning the New York Times reporting on sexual assaults committed by Hamas during its attack on October 7th, 2 months after the gray zone and
like 8 months late.
Right?
Right.
Now, he's used his perch as a respected journalist to run a hit job accusing Neil Borowski, who's Jewish, of having a secret Zionist agenda in his role as the UAW's federal monitor. The union has called for a ceasefire in Gaza. However, this is very important. Nowhere in Ryan Grimm's reporting on UAW's federal monitor has he disclosed that his managing editor and co-founder of Drop Site News, Nausicaa Renner, is married to the director of the UAW communications, Jonah Furman. We've actually read several Jonah Furman articles on this show. Jonah used to have his own publication called Who Gets the Bird. He reported on labor news. He reported for labor news, literally. And then he got hired by Teamsters for a Democratic Union, I believe. And he started pushing Teamster propaganda. And he sold the shitty UPS deal for the Teamsters to their membership on the quote-unquote left, claiming that it was a win. We debunked all of that crap in real time. Let me continue. Furman controls the UAW's multi-million-dollar media budget, and is a powerful figure within the labor movement. He's given work to scores of progressive videographers and communicators, and used the power of the UAW's vast social media space to make the work of their preferred journalists go viral. He's never done that for us, I can tell you right now. Now, through interviews with UAW members, legal experts, and a review of legal documents, Payday reporters learned that Grimm's reporting, based on one anonymous source, is not accurate. Go figure. In our 16-month-long investigation, Payday Report has discovered a troubling and well-documented pattern of intimidation and retaliation against those who speak up against misconduct in the UAW. I don't think that's any surprise to us. All right? Unbelievable. At a time when the UAW is taking a major setback following the defeat of the union drive at the Mercedes plant in Alabama, this expose by Payday Report raises troubling questions about the dysfunctionality and abuse of employees within the UAW by the Fain administration. Remember, these mostly are employees of the big three. They're not even employees necessarily of just the UAW. He says, in quote, in the words of union employees, that internal audit reported to be representative of this cohort, the union needs to end the toxic idea that fear is a motivator, correct the retaliation, and remove the culture of fear of retribution at the union. And that's what Borofsky wrote himself. Okay, he's a federal monitor, and he's there. And look, the Biden administration is tongue bathing, having a big tongue kiss right now with the UAW leadership. We know this. They're totally in bed with Shawn Fain. So for one of their monitors, federally appointed, to be saying this, that's got to be real problems, okay? So what the hell is going on? But we knew that he had purged 3 top quote-unquote allies that had flipped on him, all right, because they had seen what he was doing corruption-wise, Shawn Fain, and they were trying to let the membership know. All right. So
yep.
let me.
I'm sure they got rewarded for their courage.
Yeah, let me stop there. Yeah, because everyone says they can't stand Ryan Graham. Hi, Heidi Benner. Good to see you. Yep. He didn't get a grim job yet, but we're going to get one. Oh, boy. Juan Guaido showing up in chat. I don't think that's the same Juan Guaido that is it? That doesn't look like the same guy. Ryan Graham definitely might be cutting his own hair. I think that's a rug, honestly. I don't even think that's his own hair anyway. Right. Anyway, let's get back to what Shawn Fain is doing in purging his allies. Oh, you know what? Before we did that, I wanted to drop this real quick. That anyone that could potentially help us support independent media, we really appreciate it. We are going to be raising money toward supporting the Zago brothers for the next couple of months, toward their independent cartoon art for representing all the Indie Media Award honorees. We're going to be releasing that probably when we do the 2024 awards later this year. I already have some of the art, and it looks incredible. I can't wait for everyone else to see it. But, Lucio's got a bunch to still work on, so we're going to wait for him to finish. All right. Shout out to Zago Brothers. If you're not following at ZAGO Brothers on Twitter, give them a follow. They're also on Instagram. Just start searching ZAGO. You'll find them. So, oh my goodness. I'm doing a show with autopilot. No. What the hell? Thanks, OBS. Really appreciate that. Thanks, OBS. So you got to, Shawn Fain has purged 3 top allies. We know. Again, we've mentioned Margaret Mock, who was a Secretary Treasurer. They stripped her of her responsibility overseeing various projects and departments in the UAW, right? That was in February that they had announced this. 2 years earlier, Fain, a white Bible-quoting factory worker from rural Indiana, had tapped Mock, a black auto worker from Detroit, to be his running mate. During the campaign, incumbent UAW president Ray Curry, a black man from North Carolina, made issues of Fain being white. So, Mock's inclusion as a black woman undoubtedly helped Fain's ticket win narrowly, with only 483 votes cast out of a total of 136,485 votes from the potential UAW rank and file. Wait, what? Yep. Less than a year after serving as Fain's running mate, again, the lowest attended and the lowest turnout of any union in the history of the United States. Less than a year after serving as Fain's running mate, her demotion shocked many, particularly black union members who constitute approximately 25% of the UAW's membership. So A concerned UAW member says that without Margaret Mock, there's no way that Fain beats Curry, and it's shocking that no one has clear answers about what's happening. Well, we kind of know what's happening, right? In the wake of a federal scandal that saw many top UAW officers go to jail on charges of embezzlement, bribery, and self-enrichment, Mock implemented an open bid process that made the union's financial spending practices more transparent and tried to move the UAW away from a system of political patronage that has existed in the union for many decades. Away from a system of political patronage. Okay, do you hear those words? Remember those words.
That sounds nice to me.
But her new accountability measures angered Fain, who successfully sought to have her demoted in February, claiming that she was hindering the UAW's ability to quickly spend money on key organizing projects.
Where's the money, Lebowski?
Yeah, right. After her demotion, Mock filed a complaint with federal monitor Neil Borowski to investigate. And as she should, right? She said in a statement to the Detroit Free Press, quote, "When policies are established by the UAW International Executive Board and or by the special monitor ordered by the court to oversee the UAW and or by federal agencies, it's my responsibility when these policies concern UAW finances to diligently make sure these policies are adhered to." Makes sense, right? While it saddens me even further that I get criticized, attacked, and retaliated against because I insist on the policies that are in place be adhered to, I will not waver in enforcing financial policies intended to protect our members' sacred dues dollars. Well, demoted at least. No, worse. They didn't fire her. They tried to manage her out so that she would quit. As part of that federal consent decree, a federal judge, as a reminder, appointed Neil Borowski to be the federal monitor of the UAW in 2021. Why? Because they got indicted for embezzling $1 million. I believe it was Ray Curry himself. Under the federal consent decree, Borowski has the right to demand emails about internal decision-making over spending matters and publish the information in regular reports. UAW members read the reports religiously as they debate the union's tactics and strategies. Union members were clamoring for more information about what was happening to the top leaders. Quote, "The head of the UAW removing the VP, that's huge." And that's a UAW union president. That's Eric Fleming. He told Detroit News, "There's confusion on the plant floor." As you should, right? Margaret Mock requested that Borowski investigate these matters and publish independent findings so that rank-and-file UAW members could have a clear idea of the feud between the union's elected leaders. Because we also know that in addition to Mock being demoted, and we've reported on this, we reported on this last month, UAW's VP for Stellantis workers, Rich Boyer, was also removed from office for dereliction of duty, as Fain told union members last May, except after reaching deals with Ford and GM during the stand-up strike, nonsense, the union rushed to reach a deal with Stellantis as well. The quickly reached deal agreed to controversial language that has resulted in the layoffs of thousands of Stellantis temporary workers. Now, as the summer progressed and layoffs intensified at Stellantis, Boyer faced criticism from UAW leadership. Now, he claims that Fain and his senior staff, including Benjamin Dichter, who's a lawyer, and Chris Brooks, they were aware and pushed the deal by the UAW at Stellantis, that all UAW was in on this and pushed it. It wasn't him. He says, "Your action against me implies," and he wrote this open letter. Damn, he burned it all down. He just let it all, he spilled all the tea. I love it. "Your action against me implies that your staff had no visibility or involvement in our discussions during the 2023 negotiations with Stellantis." It's unreal. He says, "That was a blatant lie, insult, and a personal attack on my credibility." Right?
That was a lie.
That was a lie, sir. Boyer says that he had opposed several of Fain's spending decisions. Right? In particular, he had opposed his attempt to give his romantic partner and her sister an enhanced early retirement as part of their leaving the joint UAW Chrysler National Training Center.
Bro, enhanced early retirement is like what you can get prescribed in Canada. All right? That does not
Not at the UAW.
Great.
No, what you get is a very nice package, a financial package to walk away from the company.
Package. I see.
Yeah, 50,000, a year or two's worth of salary plus benefits and pension and all kinds of goodies to walk away at this point. And then you're free to go do whatever the hell you want and earn another income if you want. There's nothing stopping you, right? So when running against UAW incumbent President Ray Curry in 2022, remember that Will Lehman from WSWS also was running from Socialist Party, and he's now still suing them in federal court, and he won a lawsuit about this because they were stonewalling him for being able to communicate with the membership about his candidacy. It was crazy. They just wanted to make sure, like this, duopoly. It had to either be incumbent. No, it wasn't Curry that did the corruption. It was the one before Ray Curry. He replaced them. But
what about Steph Curry?
It might have been. No, he's a basketball player. Sports. But when he was running against Ray Curry in 2022, Fain and his allies heavily criticized the practice of keeping relatives and romantic partners on the union payroll. And then he did the same thing. They attacked the previous union president, Rory Gamble, for having his son employed at the center. Right? And that's that National Training Center for UAW Chrysler. Penn Union.
It's like a lot of Company Inc.
It is. Penn Union. And but it's not Company Inc. It's Union and Company Inc. Remember, it's a third-party broker intervening that isn't just representing the workers at Chrysler. They're representing a lot more people, and they have their own interests and priorities. And it ain't necessarily the workers at Stellantis overall. All right? But 10 Union and 3 Fiat Chrysler executives have been charged with using center funds to finance their lavish lifestyles, and some are already in jail. That's what Chris Brooks had written in 2019. That's who was mentioned earlier. But of course, the center served another purpose as a source of jobs, including sham jobs for friends and family of union officials. And then Fain turns around and does the same thing 4 years later. Really? As people within the UAW raised questions about the employment of Fain's romantic partner and her sister, talks began about how to figure out a way for the two to leave the union. As part of the negotiations, Fain requested that his partner and her sister receive an enhanced retirement package so that they could retire early. To avoid having the enhanced early retirement package raise regulators' eyebrows, he then requested that every worker at the training center get the same bump, a provision that Boyer objected to as being too costly. So basically, he wants to give everyone a raise so that his girlfriend and her sister could get raises on the way out and get a better severance on the way out. All right? That's
sure.
And
Boyer sounds like.
And Boyer said, no, that's crazy. I'm the Chrysler rep. That doesn't make any financial sense to UAW. Now, I always want to see people get paid more, but not if it's because the guy wants his girlfriend and her sister to get paid more on the way out. That's kind of messed up. Right? And maybe it's not. And I'm guessing they did this anyway because they fired Boyer. The demotion of Fain's running mate and top vice president at Stellantis continues a troubling pattern of Fain purging his top allies when they don't agree with him.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've been accused of the same thing here at INN, but I don't run a major union, so fuck all that. We run a little shitty YouTube channel. In March of 2023, Payday Report obtained documents showing that Fain had already fired his previously handpicked chief of staff and most of his previously chosen top senior staffers. I think that's because they knew all about what he was all about. The mass firings came after Rio and then top Fein staffers raised concerns about the top-down approach of a controversial Brooklyn-based union consultant, Chris Brooks. After other staffers raised similar concerns, Fein also fired several top allies, and I'm not going to name them because there's like 5 of them, but later Susan Pratt, another one, a 6th, chose to resign in solidarity with them. Rio addressed concerns regarding the dismissal of Fein's previously selected senior leadership team and its implication for the UAW reform movement in a 5-page memo written February 22nd after his dismissal last year. And there was a story in Payday Report last year about that. And Mike covered that. That's what he was trying to say, because Mike's good. All right. Fein's senior top staffers had expressed their concern about naming an inexperienced, white, social media savvy former labor writer to a top leadership position within the very racially diverse UAW. Feels, man. Vibes and feels. The union's previous incumbent president, Ray Curry, is also a 58-year-old black man from North Carolina. I don't know why race really... Right. Not that there's anything... I don't know why race is playing into this at all, but I'm guessing that Mike's going to get to that. Payday Report obtained a 5-page memo in which Rio voiced similar concerns that Brooks, a longtime Brooklyn-based union consultant, routinely downplayed and short-shrifted the perspectives of black workers. That's why. Furthermore, the group of close Fein allies expressed deep concerns that Brooks, who Fein has chosen as his right-hand man despite never having worked for the UAW or been a member of a UAW bargaining unit, operated in a style that could severely hurt the UAW reform movement. Because that's the plan, guys. In June of 2020, Brooks drew heavy criticism when he dismissed the possibility that Black Lives Matter was inspiring a massive upsurge of strike activities in the early stages of the pandemic. I think it might have been the pandemic, too. It wasn't just BLM.
Which they should have been doing.
100%.
Like, I like how they're like, oh, God, we can't have more strikes. You're a union. People want to do it. Do it.
Well, no, nobody wants to not work and earn money and earn $500 a week strike pay, but they want to hold the bosses accountable and earn more. That yes, they're voting
The activity was like people were wanting to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like they saw what was happening in the streets already. They're like, we can do that. You know, sure. You're already losing a lot of work from pandemic. Like, you know. Well,
as he says,
I just find it crazy that was like a sticking point for them.
Yes, it is. You know? It is crazy. Brooks's comments led many black leaders to criticize him as racially tone deaf for saying that. Again, saying that Black Lives Matter was dismissing the possibility that BLM was inspiring an upsurge of strike activity.
Right.
So he said, my concerns and the concerns shared by the team members listed above are that Chris has assumed a role in the transition and in your future administration that he does not possess the experience or personal maturity to carry out. You're talking about representing hundreds of thousands of workers nationwide. Right? In a short time, his lack of transparency, his need for control over departmental discussions, that's weird, micromanagement, his need to control access to you, and his apparent lack of ability to work in a real collaborative manner became apparent. So after Rio and his allies left Fein's transition team, right, Chris Brooks proposed that the union engage in the purges of staffers in the union that was narrowly divided during the union's presidential election in 2023. Brooks suggested that UAW leadership investigate its workforce to see who was loyal. He wanted a Gestapo, is what he's looking for. Okay?
Sure.
He says, ID those who we can work with, move the program, ID those who need to be purged. He wrote in an email obtained by the Detroit Free Press last year. That's the paper of record in Detroit. Gannett owned. The demotion of the UAW's black Secretary-Treasurer Margaret Mock brought again back to the surface a feeling of uneasiness among union members, particularly black union members, because in court documents, Borowski is now charging the UAW with failing to turn over information about Fain's purge of his allies. Did somebody say some racist shit in those emails and they don't want to turn them over to a federal monitor? Could that possibly be happening here?
Tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Again, Neil, we're going to hear from Neil Borowski again. In court documents last month, as of the date of this report, we said more than 3 months after a monitor's initial document request, the union has produced a very small portion, only 2,600, of the current potentially relevant pool of approximately 116,000 intentionally, and with more than 80% of those documents only produced days before the issuance of this report. There has been a similar lack of production for the monitor's embezzlement investigation into one of the union's regional directors. What? Yes, they're stonewalling all over the place. Because what happened? The union has justified its delays by advancing arguments that the decisions regarding Mock's demotion were privileged information. It's classified. I can't tell you. That's privileged. Steeped in privilege, right? However, both the Justice Department, which is overseeing the consent decree of the UAW, and the Federal Monitor have rejected this argument. So they've already been ordered to do this, and yet they're just not. If access is given to the documents, it could hurt Fain politically within the union, giving the Fain administration a motive to conceal them. Yes. All right. Borowski's Federal Monitor reports paint a troubling picture within the UAW of union staffers and leaders frustrated by Fain's quest to consolidate his power base and purge union leaders that he sees as, again, disloyal. Again, these are people that call Trump authoritarian. They call Trump a Hitler dictator. Listen to what's going on here. Anyone that has any type of dissenting opinion is purged.
You see, we're a family here.
Yeah.
You got to be loyal to the family.
Crazy.
Forget about it.
A recent culture assessment conducted by the union's internal audit function uncovered remnants of that culture still at the union. On the one hand, there were several positive aspects of the culture assessment, with most union staff members reporting that they feel a strong sense of mission and purpose, driven employment, gain a sense of personal fulfillment from their work, and feel motivated and inspired by the UAW's identity in spite of Shawn Fain and all of this. All right. However, while the UAW and its telegenic president, Shawn Fain, were getting good press, a survey of hundreds of UAW staffers conducted by the Monitor's office showed that feelings within the UAW were also very troubling. And he says, based on hundreds of anonymous survey responses, the culture assessment also found divisions and silos within the union that are negatively impacting the union's culture. For example, the survey revealed that a concerning number of union personnel continued to fear retaliation if they were to report misconduct, and that many harbor the same kinds of concerns that were present at the start of the monitorship. Start of the monitorship being 2019, I believe. Borowski's 124-page report was sent to the UAW's 300,000 members and widely read. For many union members, it raised deep questions about Fain's purge within the UAW. This was the first time a lot of them were even hearing about this. Quote, although the Monitor will make no judgment on whether the actions of the president were appropriate until after he concludes the investigation described in the Monitor's 9th status report, these events have been perceived by union staff that has already had significant concerns about a culture of fear of retribution as confirmation that even the highest ranked union officials can be subject to retaliation, wrote Borowski in July. Yeah, no one is safe. If you're standing next to Fain and you question him, he's going to cut you out because we know that he really works for the Democratic Party. So the minute you start questioning the Democratic Party or their methods or the donors, you're out. Specifically, reports to the Monitor's hotline from union staff have cited the actions taken against the Secretary-Treasurer and Vice President as driving retaliation fears that reporting alleged abuses might lead to retribution from the president's office. Not might lead to? No, did lead to. Given the fragility of the union's cultural perception of retaliation, whether they were appropriate or not, how these recent acts are perceived by the union staff must be taken into account when tackling this persistent cultural challenge. One longtime UAW leader joked with me that Fain was like Walter Reuther, both in a good and bad way. You got to remember that Reuther purged a lot of people. I don't know who Walter Reuther is.
People who don't know who is Walter Reuther?
I don't know. So
okay.
I'm guessing that he was an old UAW person.
I'll do a Google.
Yes, please look that up for me. Confidential data from
Spell
surveys.
His last name,
R-E-U-T-H-E-R. R-E-U-T-H-E-R.
American civil rights activist.
Aha.
Okay.
So,
organized labor and civil rights activists who put the United Automobile Workers into one of the most progressive labor unions in America.
He was a former UAW union head. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Right. Confidential data from the surveys of several hundred UAW staff conducted by the Monitor found a deep culture of fear within the UAW. Again, in the words of union employees, that internal audit reported to be representative of this cohort, the union needs to end the toxic idea that fear is a motivator, correct the retaliation, and remove the culture of fear and retribution at the union, wrote Borowski last month in that report. And that's federally publicly available. That was written for us. We paid for that as Americans.
Mm.
The data gathered during the survey underscores the widespread nature of the concerns of these staff members. For example, of the approximately 100 union staff who reported that they witnessed unethical behavior or misconduct, we again covered this last week, during that 12 months, over 30% said they didn't report it, and all survey participants were asked why they didn't report it, and 40% of them said they declined to report it out of fear of retaliation. Calls to the Monitor's hotline have independently and repeatedly echoed the same concerns. Like, he's not making it up. This is happening systemically and frequently and across the board. Borowski had written that both Fain's secretary-treasurer and vice president for Stellantis complained that they were removed from their assignments within the union because they wouldn't go along with spending requests from the UAW. Spending requests being the raises for Fain's girlfriend and her sister, which then would take into effect not just for them, but for everyone that had that title, which would have been a lot more money. The demotions had a chilling effect on the debate within the union. That specifically reports to the Monitor's hotline from union staff have cited the actions taken against Secretary Treasurer and VP as driving retaliation fears that reporting alleged abuses might lead to retribution from the president's office, because he'll figure out where it came from. He says, given the fragility of the union's cultural perception of retaliation, whether they were appropriate or not, how these recent acts were perceived by the union staff must be taken into account, like we said, when tackling this persistent cultural challenge. I think I read that before. All right. There's a lot more to this, too. And this is, like I said, Mike goes deep on this one, and he talks a lot about several different problems that all stem from one specific guy. Sean Fain. Now they rigged, I'll be the one to make that accusation that somehow that election for him was rigged. They didn't send out the ballots to anyone. It was the first time the entire UAW membership, not just the Barnes and the captains, were given the ability to vote at the union. Right? And they didn't let anybody know, and they didn't tell anyone who was running. Again, 483 votes, 133,000 members. And I think there's even more than that.
This is the most election of our lifetime.
Well, they love appointing candidates. That's what the Democrats do, right? How is this different from an insurance company? You're right, Anna. They pay in their dues, not insurance, in case shit happens, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes. So the United Auto Workers, UAW is the United Auto Workers. They're the ones that work for all the car companies. But UAW also has a lot of other union members that are not working for the for one of the big three auto workers. They actually just recently unionized a plant in, was it for Audi or for Volkswagen? They just won one for Volkswagen in Tennessee, and they lost one for Mercedes in Alabama. But there was a little bit of monkey business there too. CBC voter, good to see you. All right, Team Orca. I used to be a statistician of sorts. The amount of employer on employee violence is significantly higher than you would think. You bet. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Anna. If our channel was, well, we do have a shitty little, it's not a shitty little channel, but it's a little channel nonetheless. Nobody's worried about our little channel. It was really what I meant to say. But senior leadership was a toddler. He still is a toddler right now. Ghost Start is breaking news that Bezalel Smotrich orders the confiscation of 100 million shekels from the Palestinian Authority to compensate the Israeli families of those killed in the operation on October 7th. Ugh. Oh, boy.
What a fucking... Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anna Mayers, UAW has come to seem like a giant grift, and that's putting it mildly. Well, they're a protection racket is what they are. All right. And they're not even a very good one because they're not protecting their base. They're more in cahoots with the boss than they are with the workers. All right. Yeah. You had one job and exactly they couldn't do it. All right. Go Start. 60,000 Americans live in illegal Jewish settlements in the West Bank. All right. As well as 23,400 Americans. Oh, I guess it's cutting off. That's weird. Let me fix that. 23,400 Americans. There we go. Hey, serving in the Israeli army. Wow, 23,000 Americans serving in the army. Many are posting videos on social media showing them committing war crimes, and I hope they're prosecuted when they come back home. As they should. As they should. As Kit Cabello would say. Shout out to our friend Kit. All right. Topher
Is
over...
that your excuse for a Chicagoan accent?
I wouldn't even call that Chicago, but Topher over on Kick. Oh no, he moved over to YouTube. Good to see you, Topher, over there. UAW hide stuff like Kamala's DA office. Very funny. Very true. The mafia would be preferable to the UAW. I think, be shame if something happened to your nice little job there. That's right. All right. I don't know if you have any of the John Deere story in here. I don't have the John Deere story, but I know that they're also got screwed over. We reported on John Deere 2 years ago and how mad they were at what the UAW did.
Hoffa was breaking kneecaps, people.
Yes, he was. That's Teamsters.
But
that's union. That's union leadership.
Difference.
And also,
right.
Not just John Deere. Also, UAW was Carrier, I believe. Carrier workers are UAW, and there was one other one I'm thinking of that just slipped my mind that we were talking about, UAW members. And then, of course, there's the ones, the workers in California, that school workers are aligned with UAW. All right. Now it's Hurricane Debbie. Is that what they're calling it now? All right. Yeah. And then we got Fall Gators for Kit. I'm retired. Union deep dives don't interest me. Okay, as long as I make my money next Friday. Next Friday coming, I didn't get the rent, and out the door I went. Yeah, speaking of paying the rent and out the door I went, if you can support independent media and support our project for the Indie Media Awards to provide cartoon illustrations for all of the Indie Media Award honorees of their faces. And we'll do some really cool stuff with that. Zago's excited. He's seen some of the stuff that we're putting together, some of the artwork and some of the ways to incorporate that. We might put them into shirts. I don't know. It depends. We're going to have to get permission from the people themselves to use their face and their impression on a shirt and figure out how that might work. But we'll certainly make that available to everyone. And it'll be available at indiemediaawards.substack.com. You'll see all of them there at some point. So
here we got Longshoremen Union in the house. Look at them.
Nice.
Look at them doing it.
Good shit.
The Longshoremen.
So, like I said, we're going to continue on what's happening in the UAW, and that the Bernie Bros from Brooklyn are pushing out the rank and file from the UAW communications office. This is another problem that's happening at the UAW. One person.
The Bernie Bros from Brooklyn.
This is, again, Mike Elk.
Big, bad.
Go ahead.
It was just very alliterative. My apologies.
Big bad Bernie Bros from Brooklyn. That's right. This is Mike Elk from Payday Report, paydayreport.com. Not .org, but I believe it's nonprofit. It's tax deductible if you donate there. But what he's talking about is in the communications office at UAW, one person who found their political patronage system threatened by Margaret Mock's open process is UAW Communications Director Jonah Furman, who controls the union's multi-million-dollar budget. Again, we talked a little bit about Furman earlier. Jonah Furman is a DC-based union consultant who had previously worked as the top labor liaison for the Bernie Sanders campaign and at Labor Notes. All right. He also has his own Substack, whogetsthebird.substack.com.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
I knew she was coming. She's going to open one at some point. Rachel Maddow is coming to a Substack near you at some point. I promise. With over 60...
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
See, she just announced it right now. With over 60,000 Twitter followers, Furman, like we said, is a social media powerhouse and commands a legion of labor fans who have turned Fain into the most famous labor leader in the country. Well, him and Sean O'Brien both. However...
Yeah, and I also don't know about famous, but sure, whatever.
Infamous, famous... El Guapo, do you know what that word means? Anyway.
I mean, Chris is apparently chopped liver, I guess. But,
Well, he's also unemployed at this point, I believe. But, however.
Sure, well, yeah.
Members of the UAW's local union communication association, who is UAW Luca, complained that Furman was turning away from previous hires from the rank and file of the UAW to hire Beltway-connected consultants, hiring many of the talented content makers of the Bernie campaign. The hires paid off and made Fain a household name, but rank-and-file UAW members felt left excluded. Wow, this is an argument that we've been making for 3 years, that there is no representation of the rank-and-file workers coming out of any PR department from any organized union. The Teamsters are starting to do it a little bit. Amazon Labor Union did it for about 5 minutes, and then they stopped. Hopefully they may pick it up again, but we'll see what happens there. The latest round of hiring for the International UAW Communications Department is to be filled with all candidates that are non-UAW candidates. Why? Bringing the department to a ratio where less than half of the staff was UAW before entering the department, wrote the rank-and-file members in a leaked petition obtained by Payday Report. I wonder how he got that. This group of UAW local leaders signing it include Jesse Kelly of UAW 160 and Luigi Gukal and 5 or 6 others, all right, of different locals. quote, we the undersigned of UAW Luca representatives petition a meeting with Jonah Furman. They just have to put out a petition to even ask for a meeting to discuss the recent decision and direction of the department to cease to use content that is created by rank and file UAW members until the International UAW Communications Department is represented by a majority of staff who were UAW members prior to accepting the role in the department. How are you supposed to represent the members if you never worked there? Don't even know them. Interact with them. With Fain facing increasing pressure from within the UAW and complaints that they lost a high-profile UAW election in Alabama over a digital media heavy and organizing light model, he has increasingly relied on Furman to work his contacts in the press. We know about this. In June, Federal Monitor Neil Borowski filed a complaint in court asking a federal judge to order the UAW to hand over more documents. A rash of all of a sudden negative headlines appeared about the UAW. Then a story relying on one anonymous source appeared accusing Borowski, like we said, who had served as a monitor investigating Credit Suisse for hiding Nazi money, of having a Zionist bias. The UAW social monitor and social media influencer allies kicked into higher gear to brand Borowski as a Zionist, one who was upset over the UAW's position on Gaza and was retaliating by investigating Fain's controversial purges. Guess who he called?
Okay.
Guess who he called? We'll get to that in a minute. Who did Jonah Furman call? He had friends in the independent press. The reporting mentioned nothing about the court-ordered survey of hundreds of UAW employees that showed widespread fear of Fain's purges of allies suspected of disloyalty. Of course, that never was mentioned. Look at the beginning of the next paragraph. Ryan Grimm, the author of the viral hit piece that relied on a single anonymous source, which might have been Jonah Furman's wife for all we know, failed to mention one key point, that his top editor was married to Jonah Furman. That might be a conflict of interest. Slightly.
It might be.
Now, on top of all of that, the ADL threatens the UAW with an anti-BDS lawsuit. I love this. So, the UAW, has called for an end to the siege in Gaza. They want, they called for a ceasefire very tepidly while endorsing the Democrats and not really calling for it. But the rank and file membership certainly wants it to stop. I mean, we've certainly seen that.
Even calling for it at this point, like we've talked about this. We've had these discussions. Ceasefire is like the bare minimum half measure.
Yep.
Like, like it's almost like you could just say that. But they're not calling for like single Palestinian liberated state, clearly. Like,
no,
but
definitely not. Democratic, independent, non-secular return to the people that were running it before 1948 state. Because the whole thing was, that's a whole other story. Let's look into, you can look into exactly what that story is before. But anyway, getting back to the article, that the ADL threatened the UAW with an anti-BDS lawsuit. Wait, what? Yes, well, the ADL is hysterical and crazy. Jonathan Greenblatt, we know all about the ADL and how much influence they actually have over corporate media, right? And over
whole segments on it.
Yes, they literally accuse everyone of what is it? Being antiseptic, right?
Racism and antisepticism and
so
all that jazz.
In early July, Ryan Grimm, autopilot, left The Intercept and launched a new nonprofit site called Drop Site News with famed Intercept founder Jeremy Scahill. Thank you, Otto. I'm now doing the show with autopilot, if everyone didn't know that's on the podcast. The site's first viral article was entitled, and they launched this thing, quote, the UAW's federal monitor twice pressured the union to back off its call for a Gaza ceasefire, then launched an investigation. That's such crap. Grimm thinks he's got a big scoop, wrote, Borowski's pursuit of fame has less to do with concerns over union self-dealing and has more to do with the politics of Israel-Palestine. Maybe he was covering for his editor's husband? I don't know. Stop trying to hide Reef, Otto. Come on. Grimm wrote, Borowski's pursuit of fame has less to do, like he said, with concerns over union self-dealing and more to do with the politics of Israel-Palestine. Bullshit. Bullshit, Ryan Grimm. I call bullshit. As his evidence, Autopilot presented a potential legal threat issued by Jonathan Greenblatt and the hysterical Zionist ADL against the UAW's Local 7092 at NYU and the New School. Remember, we covered that. UAW activists at the schools had been calling for BDS against Israel for the ongoing campaign of genocide that Israel has pursued in Gaza. Mike Elk is also Jewish, by the way. Thank goodness. You know, for the Jews like us that stand up and stand against what's going on there. As he says, New York State's first in the nation anti-BDS law requires state and local governments to divest from any group engaged in BDS calls. That's insane. I think Texas did that too, and same with Georgia. But I think it got overturned in Georgia. I remember that Abby Martin famously fought it and took it to federal court in Georgia and won. With the UAW representing public and graduate employees at public universities, the state could be forced to divest from the UAW's pension and retirement funds, or possibly even not provide dues checkoff for the union. New York state law has allowed the state to strip unions of dues checkoff if they violate state law. It'd be a little difficult to collect money. Having been sent a serious legal threat, Borowski informed UAW President Shawn Fain of the threat in December and forwarded the letter from the ADL to the IEB, that's the International Executive Board. Quote, although this issue is outside of the monitor's jurisdiction, we thought it was important to forward the message to the IEB given the serious concerns raised here. He's not telling them they have to do this. He's saying that they should act. He's not telling them what to do. He's saying now, he did say what his opinion was, but he asserts that it's his opinion. He says, for what it's worth, as I previously shared with Sean, similar concerns were raised directly to me shortly after the IEB issued its own ceasefire statement. But it doesn't necessarily say that he has a problem with it. In an IEB meeting attended by top UAW officials, Borowski again brought up the legal letter from the ADL. Later, one of the UAW's attorneys objected to Borowski informing the UAW of the threat for the ADL. Wait, what? Why?
Yep.
Again, we're going to talk about who that was, while the 58-year-old veteran labor lawyer Nathaniel Carney, it's kind of funny, a felon convicted of conspiracy for obstruction of justice within the Teamsters in the 90s, he's played a key role in the legal department. While he has played one, it was the much younger 36-year-old Jewish attorney Benjamin Dichter who sent a letter to Borowski. So basically, he's also a Zionist who got triggered. All right? That's what's going on here. You've got a Jewish attorney that's part of the UAW that doesn't like what's going on. He says, we ask that such respect be mutual and that your office be respectful of the guardrails of your role and refrain from any further communications of the sort discussed in this email. He's just trying to stonewall the guy. After Dichter's email, Borowski never mentioned the letter that he received from the ADL. So it worked. All right. But here's my favorite part and the reason why I brought this tonight. We all know Ryan Grimm very well. We all know that Ryan Grimm has tried to play both sides of the fence when it comes to quote unquote being a lefty or a progressive. He calls himself one while he fillets billionaires and works for multiple of them simultaneously. I want to mention that he's already said that, and they announced at The Intercept that they would be funding and supporting Ryan Grimm and Jeremy Scahill in their new effort called Drop Site News. So basically, they're rebranding the Intercept on Substack and called it Drop Site News. And ooh, it's a whole new big thing. No, it's all the same people, just brought over there and not paid directly by Pierre Omidyar, but rather, who knows how they're getting paid now. But they're still going to keep doing it. And by the way, they're still getting fed scoops. Who the hell leaves a big publications like that and gets more scoops than they had when they were there? Otto? Oh, right. You?
What?
You do? Autopilot does?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. How about
I think
that?
so.
Okay, Ryan. All right. So, Crying Grimm. No, not Crying Grimm.
Is autopilot part of the pilots union? Who were the ones that tried to do the Teamsters?
Yes, that was the
UAW.
Well, that was the Alliance or Allegiant Airlines pilots. They tried to be Teamsters and they weren't being represented, so they joined the pilots union. We covered that a couple weeks ago.
That's what it was.
My buddy Dennis Yu. Pay Dennis Yu, Teamsters. Pay Dennis Yu. All right, enough Ryan Grimm, please. Ryan Grimm doesn't disclose that his editor is married to the communications director, as we said, and it gets a little testy. He gets a little upset. On February 29th, which is actually the day that I interviewed the Amazon employees, the fired Amazon employees that were purged off the board. All right, Michelle Valentin-Nieves and Ronald Boone, shout out to all of them, Nicole Druda and Chermo. I had a great conversation with them. If you haven't seen that, please go back and watch that. That's great talk with them. So that day, the Detroit Free Press broke the news that UAW Secretary-Treasurer Margaret Mock had been demoted from most of her assignments as labor leader in the UAW. That same day, Borowski sent a letter to the UAW asking for information about the demotion. She's the second-ranking officer, and as we know, she's African-American, and there have been problems with the person that's alongside Sean Fain being accused of insensitive to black issues when there is a large contingent of black members. According to Autopilot, Ryan Grimm, Borowski's investigation of Mock's demotion came as direct retaliation for the union's support of a ceasefire in Gaza. Forget about the fact that there actually is a culture of fear and there was a culture of corruption, and they need to be investigated, and that's his job. His article said that on February 29th, just 6 days after, Borowski sent a sweeping demand for documents saying he was opening an investigation into Fain and a dispute Fain had with the Secretary-Treasurer. All right. However, labor law experts, including anti-Zionist ones like the University of St. Louis's Mike Duff, say that Borowski, as a lawyer, may have had merit in forwarding a potential legal threat from the ADL to the UAW. All of them said, I think forwarding a letter from the ADL out of concern that the union risked violating the anti-BDS law, leaving questions of constitutionality to one side, arguably fell within the monitor's legal ethical duty. Because if they weren't going to get funded by the New York State, don't say duty. I knew you were going to do that. You're a child. But because if they don't if they don't get paid out by the state, if the state revokes their financial ability to raise money and to charge dues because of this thing, he's certainly within his responsibility to let them know. All right? Because, all right, some within the UAW have been pushing for the union to support BDS. However, concerns about legal and financial consequences have led to UAW International Executive Board members voting down BDS resolutions so far. If the UAW in its own international executive debates is worried about the legal and financial consequences of BDS, why would it be strange for their federal monitor to forward a legal threat from a Zionist organization known for suing critics of Zionism? It's crazy. He should. Ryan, I Need a Haircut Grimm wrote in his article that Borofsky also asked for any and all emails, text messages, and instant messages sent between Fain, his top deputies, and his lawyers from February 12th through 23rd. That covers pretty much the exact time the UAW and Borofsky were jockeying over the ADL's complaint about their call for a ceasefire. Again, nowhere does Grimm mention that Borofsky's investigation was launched by a complaint filed by the UAW Secretary-Treasurer. He may not even have known, but he certainly never asked and never reported it. Clearly, union members would want to know why the number 2 elected union official was demoted. Again, University of St. Louis labor law professor and anti-Zionist Mike Duff says it's hard to see Grimm establish that Borofsky engaged in punitive measures against the UAW. It's a pretty vague threat. I can't understand what the union was being threatened with, since the monitor could already ask for anything he wanted related to his function. The UAW, of course, did not return multiple requests for comment for this story. No surprise there. Borofsky has denied ever expressing his views on Palestine. So the monitor, we don't know if he's a Zionist or not. He's staying quiet. But the evidence against him is merely that he forwarded a letter from the ADL, a controversial group that has sometimes stretched definitions of anti-Semitism to include anti-Zionism. Not sometimes.
Yes.
They literally had it passed in Congress.
Congress. Yep.
Okay. Borofsky again told the New York Times, quote, "This false account is offensive and an obvious attempt to distract attention from the most recent report. We have adhered to standard norms of a monitorship in referring complaints to union leadership. It has nothing to do with his religion, their religion, or anybody else's religion, or their stance on massacres and ethnic cleansing and genocide," even though it's gross that there are members of UAW leadership that clearly are for genocide.
Yep.
No evidence exists tying Borofsky to Zionist groups or expressing Zionist beliefs beyond him fulfilling his legal duty to forward the lawsuit threat from the ADL. However, Fain's allies on social media have repeatedly pointed to Borofsky being praised by the World Jewish Congress. Why? For his work as a federal monitor of Credit Suisse when he investigated the bank's role in hiding Nazi money stolen from the Jews. So that makes him a Zionist? Even progressive activist and author Matt Stoller, who is also Jewish and half a shit lib, I would call him a mid-lib, very good on monopolies, but really bad on a lot of other stuff, says that he detests the ADL and feels that they manipulate anti-Semitism to support Israel's horrific war. And I agree. He says, as someone, Mike Elk says, as someone who was a staffer on Capitol Hill during the bailout, Stoller says that the attack on Borofsky is a smokescreen designed to smear him for speaking out against the purges that Fain has initiated within his union. Sean Fain must be protected at all costs for the Democrats. They can't have anybody else as their president, certainly not Will Lehman, that's going to stick his finger in the eye of the Democrats and leadership and the Republicans for that matter. All right. He says, I worked with him during the financial crisis. Yeah, who? I worked with him during the financial crisis, and he showed immense integrity in standing up to the biggest bank in the world, as well as a lot of corrupt people in the Obama administration, Stoller said. Borofsky was heavily smeared by the Obama administration and faced threats that his role as special investigator of TARP would be defunded because he called out the big banks. He was very honest under immense pressure, and it would be hard for me, very hard for me, to imagine that he would be doing something unethical here. I've never seen him do that, and I've seen him under some pretty intense pressure. Like, what's his motivation? Afterward, Borowski published a book in 2012 titled Bailout, an inside account of how Washington abandoned Main Street while rescuing Wall Street, which is a widely read New York Times bestseller. I didn't know that. The book was a gripping account detailing how the Obama administration attempted to retaliate against him for accurately reporting on the bailout as Special Inspector General. So he's got experience with this. He said, quote, I thought that if there was ever going to be, Obama is right. I thought that if there was ever going to be a political figure that would take on the interests of Wall Street, it was going to be President Obama, and that just didn't happen. Yeah. His cabinet was literally chosen by Citigroup. It was the exact opposite of that. He had the same ideology as Secretary Tim Geithner, and frankly, the same ideology as a lot of those people who came from Wall Street. I wonder why.
Come on, people.
Yeah. Borowski's forwarding of the ADL's threat occurred in February, so why would the UAW wait until they were in trouble for not turning over documents to raise this issue? Weird. Furthermore, if Borowski did engage in political interference, the federal judge has the power to remove him from the case. Given that parties in federal monitorship often record meetings, why would Borowski risk losing his federal monitorship by bringing this issue up? It literally makes no sense. It makes no sense. Currently, it's the word of Neil Borowski, who would face severe legal penalties if he was lying, versus just one anonymous source who spoke to a reporter whose editor was married to the communications director at UAW. The UAW's own legal team has a checkered past, which would lead one to doubt their credibility. We learned about Nathaniel Charney, who was one of their top lawyers, who was responsible for helping to steer their legal strategy, again, was convicted of conspiracy to engage in obstruction of justice by another federal monitor of the Teamsters in 1998. Literally, what's happening here, he got convicted of 25 years ago. How he's allowed to do this again at the UAW, I have no idea. But Charney cooperated with federal authorities in their investigation and was able to keep his law license after an 18-month license suspension as punishment. So he took a little slap on the wrist, was able to continue practicing, and now 25 years later, he's doing it again. The younger Jewish lawyer, Benjamin Dichter, who wrote a letter complaining about Borowski's forwarding of the legal threat from the ADL, I don't know why, again, what's the problem with him forwarding a letter, is also in Borowski's crosshairs, which he should be. Borowski has asked the federal judge for Dichter's and others UAW lawyers' emails and correspondence, which Dichter, of course, has resisted.
Hey, phrasing!
No, that's his last name, but he's resisted because of attorney-client privilege, of course. All right? Why? Well, after taking over as counsel of the New York News Guild, Dichter faced criticism from New York Times reporters for not presenting a yearly budget of legal expenses. And we know why. Because an analysis by Payday Report of Federal Department of Labor financial records in July 2021 showed that legal costs doubled in the first year after he took over as union counsel. I wonder who he paid. Maybe his own firm? In 2020 alone, the union spent over $620,000 on outside legal costs instead of hiring a much cheaper in-house counsel, nearly doubling the $335,000 spent by the New York News Guild in 2019. Even pro-union labor law experts say that kind of union spending on outside legal counsel was excessive for a union local of only 4,200 members. $600,000 for only 4,200 members? So, here's my favorite part. Payday Report asks Ryan Grimm, why didn't you reveal that your top editor was married to Jonah Furman? I don't think you understand how conflicts of interest work, said Grimm, and that it was widely known in the journalism industry. How would a rank-and-file UAW member reading Grimm's article know this unless the conflict of interest was disclosed directly within the article, a fact that may have influenced his reporting? Grimm claimed that his publication's founding editor, Renner, A founding editor wasn't directly involved in the granular work of editing the final article. However, as the publication's founding editor, she still allowed it to be published on her site without revealing her husband was the UAW communications director. Grimm repeatedly refused to answer questions about whether or not he worked directly with Jonah Furman, her husband. Over a period of 3 weeks, I attempted to engage Grimm and set up an interview with him to discuss this. He refused to answer most of my questions. Still, he did threaten to sue me if I got any facts wrong about how the founding editor of his publication was married to the UAW's communications director. He says, quote, "Do not defame my editor. We'll take it seriously. If your story is fair and accurate, great, but you're on notice." What a piece of shit. And he's got that in text. That's in writing. Every journalist's background and family connections shape the way they report, and it's important that they disclose this information. He says, for 17 years as a labor reporter, I've always disclosed that my father, Gene Elk, is the retired director of the organization of the United Electrical Workers. As a Jewish union leader, he worked to pass the first BDS resolution passed by any union in the country back in 2015. Even when writing for the New York Times about how corruption in previous UAW administrations sunk a union drive at VW in Chattanooga in 2014, I revealed that my mother had been a UAW activist when she worked at VW in Western PA in the 1980s. For 11 years, I traveled back and forth to cover 3 major UAW attempts at their plant in Chattanooga because, as the son of an auto worker, I know how important it was for rank-and-file auto workers to have accurate coverage. Following the historic union victory, the UAW has had an opportunity to organize non-union plants. Still, since the victory at Chattanooga, the UAW has stumbled, losing a narrow union election at Mercedes in Alabama. With the news of the purges and fear of intimidation within the UAW, one can't help but wonder if the infighting within the UAW is hurting their ability to take advantage of a historic moment to organize in the South. Because as, again, Federal Monitor Neil Borofsky repeatedly warned, a culture of retaliation within the UAW could hurt the union's ability to achieve its goals. And again, he says, if left unchecked, these issues will inevitably impede the union's efforts to create a culture of compliance. No matter how strong its architecture of policies and procedures, the union cannot detect and prevent malfeasance, financial or otherwise, if such a sizable portion of its employees fear speaking up when they see it. Divisions within the union are also having a negative impact on union morale and, if left unaddressed, could further drag down the union's pace of reform. And again, the full 124-page report can be found linked from Payday Report. PaydayReport.com. Support Mike Elk. Support independent media. Support journalism that holds labor union bosses accountable. It's so important because they're running around acting like they're representing the people and the workers, and we know damn well that they're not. Let me also go here. Support independent media, like I said, because who else is telling you this story? Where else are they talking about this? Unless it's somewhere in a Republican district where they're trying to stick it to Sean Fain. All right? And we're not done with Sean Fain just yet because, man, just today. Well, actually, before that,
Okay.
he's already voted for, said that they're going to endorse Harris. Right?
Right.
Let me close this. He says, when you compare Trump and Harris and what they've done for working class people, it's a very telling story. Except it's not the story that you really want to tell, of course. I said, or you could just say that they're both effing awful corporatists, but Sean absolutely refuses to do that. What a clown. This is how you fight for your base? By endorsing an anointed, unelected candidate with no concessions because she's going to lose badly anyway. Embarrassing. It's embarrassing. All right, but that's not all. back in May, he claimed that the UAW would never support the mass arrest or intimidation of those exercising their right to protest. This was about the Palestine protests. Now go vote for Joe Biden. What a clown. He's a media creation, a reformist who spoke for an entire union without asking what they thought first. I don't think he should have said free Palestine. He shouldn't have said any of it without at least asking his union base what they wanted first and voting on it. He politicized the union, allied hard with Democrats, and alienated Republicans as if there are none among their ranks. It's gross. All right? But beyond that, this clown, stand up UAW, we don't win by playing nice with the bosses. We win by giving working class people the tools, the inspiration, and the courage to stand up for themselves. A lot of fucking nothing, you clown, you stooge. And there, I'm telling him, he's a clown. All right? He sounds as vapid as Kamala Harris herself. Then, of course, we find out Sean tries to explain the facts behind the decision to endorse Kamala Harris for president. There are no facts. There's just your fifis, man, because you never asked the union rank and file. Here's the short summary. He sold out without letting his members vote on it. Fuck you, Sean Fain. You're garbage. And then finally, just today, right, thank you. No, actually on Friday, I see this one. He's now recommending who he would like to see as Kamala's potential running mate. First of all, forget the fact that he's now, after having the fewest votes of any union president in the history of the country, now endorsing someone who's literally had 0 votes from their base. It's hilarious. Welcome to the Democratic Party, folks.
This is the most election of our lifetime.
All right. And here's what I said. Why is he even getting involved in party politics at all? Shut up and represent your base against the bosses. What the actual fuck are you idiots doing? What the actual fuck? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mikhail. When you learn about Sean Fain, what you learn about Sean Fain and the UAW and INN, it's very telling. Because you don't hear about this. Nobody else wants to do this. They all want to tongue bathe him. They all want to kiss the work. They think that he represents the workers and that they're kissing the workers' ass by elevating and supporting this clown when he's knifing them in the back constantly. All right? Anna Mayers, it's like the squad pretending to hate war. The illusion people in power give a fuck about you. It's all a grift, JJ Bibbs. And where's my barbecue sauce already? Amen on that. We need to make JJ Bibbs barbecue sauce. Bad cookies. Ha! Ryan Grimm didn't disclose important information? Say it ain't so, lol. Yeah, here, he says that it's widely known.
Like JJ Bibbs is going to have like baked apple in it. You know?
Well, yes.
Definitely need some of that.
Roasted or baked apple or some kind of apple thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Emergency orange is now Anna's favorite color for obvious reasons. Yes. Cynic again, widely known by the people whose job it is to cover it up. Yes, that's exactly in journalism. It's widely known in journalism. Yeah, but how about the people that are actually reading this that would be able to take action? They are represented. No. Nah. Anna also says, I literally wrote my college senior thesis picking apart the movie A Bug's Life, and 20 years later, and we still haven't learned our lesson. Go rewatch it. It's insane. Yeah, that's a great movie. Pixar, right?
No, I don't think so. Maybe, but I think Dreamcast or whatever. Possibly. Could be wrong. Yeah. I might be thinking of the other bug movie.
Anna wants Granny Smith, but Jesse usually smokes out of a red apple, so that's definitely not a granny.
I like Pink Ladies.
Here we
Ladies
go.
Are nice.
Nazi hater. How about addresses the issue of Harris's husband being a Zionist and Shapiro, who she plans to pick for VP, being a Zionist with dual citizenship? She also is a Zionist, so it's like it's one big Zio party that is funded by Israel and loyal to Israel, and it's Israel first. Didn't we know? Come on, everyone.
Yep.
All right, so it's a little after midnight. I ran a little long. We're going to do boats next. But before we do, very quick hits around the world.
DreamWorks.
Who are these
Dreamscape,
people?
like that.
Anna says Pixar for sure. I watch it daily. So, okay.
Bugs Life?
Bugs Life. Yep. I think you're thinking of Ants as DreamWorks.
Okay.
Which is the one that has
Yeah,
Jerry Seinfeld
Ants
in
is
it.
Better. I think.
Okay.
Trying to remember which one has like all the like workers together motifs in it.
I think that's Ants. But INN has a newsletter coming to a Rachel Maddow near you.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Yes, except that there's no longer the word Substack in the URL. It is now got its own URL at innnewsletter.com directly, which means that if you share an article from there, you'll be able to preview it on Twitter now. Yay! But also that it gets its own home. And it's plugged directly in. But the other big thing is we're going to start trying to do more on a daily basis, an update of what you can expect on the network each day. So today I did one because we had 3 shows going, but we also had 3 premieres. Hey, who are these people?
Who are these people?
Send me that little video, and we can put we put that out. But there were 3 premieres that happened at 11, at 3, and at 5 in the afternoon Eastern time before we had 3 live streams. So I put those all into an email and sent it out and posted this on innnewsletter.com. You can check it out, subscribe for free. You can also support us there with a monthly contribution. I think it's set for $8 or $80 a year. And support independent media that way. And we also provide a weekly update, and that summarizes all of the appearances, live streams, but not the clips. So now I'm going to try to incorporate all of the clips into a more daily email, because the shorter versions of this interview, for example, broken up into smaller components, some people may want to watch the smaller clips instead of watching the full hour-long interview, though you should, by all means, watch this interview with Vanessa Beeley, the Sword of Damascus, with Reef and Colin. Okay. Yep. Again, Tuesday night, we're going to run the Grift Home Companion. Again, we're going to run this 2-year anniversary edition where Jesse read through the entire album. We would normally be off on Tuesday nights. We're going to run that starting at 10 Eastern. All right. Let's get back to the calendar here. Again, tomorrow night, we're going to do boats next. Tomorrow night, we've got the Maple Files at 9 Eastern. We've got the Grift Home Companion at 10 Eastern on Tuesday. INN News Wednesday with Reef and Colin. Thursday night, like I said, we're going to have a very special live stream at 8 Eastern. Misty's going to host. Me and Scott Horton will be talking on the anti-war INN pro-Palestine unity panel. And then at 9, we'll have Politically Homeless at its normal time. I'm actually going to see if they can go start a little later. So if we run long, we can do that. And then Friday, Angel in the Afternoon. He had, I think, Alex Knight on again Friday. And then Friday night, we do Clip Show. That's always a good time. We did the 3rd quarter. This week, we're going to do the 4th quarter. And that's episodes 34 through 44 of American Tradition. Grab a couple songs, a couple pieces from each episode, and put those together in a fun clip show that will run Friday night at 10:30 Eastern. What else you got?
The other thing, next week, I think I'd like to do a Rumble only boats.
That sounds good.
Much less Faces of Death. I took opinions from the audience. They say ixnay on that.
A little bit too hardcore for everyone.
Just be, yeah. So we're just gonna do stuff that I can't play on YouTube. You know, that kind of thing. So
Anna says it was Ants that's
Tune in for that next
that's
week.
DreamWorks. Okay, yeah, so yeah, next week we're gonna have Boats Uncensored, Rumble only. Boats Uncensored, everyone. So tell your friends.
Yep.
Everybody's quitting Everybody's quitting Twitter. Elon Musk is a fraud, is what Max Sarge is saying over on the YouTubes. Man, our reach is getting crushed.
Fuck Twitter.
Fuck Twitter is right. Who was that? That's Patrice O'Neill. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes. Cookie saying Elon was always a fraud. People are just catching up. But yeah, this is again indienews.network. This is our link. It's a link tree. It's just a set of links so you can get to all the pages and all the properties and everything, including who's INN. That's just a kind of an about us that's on. Hey. Okay, I think I put too many N's. INNN newsletter. Oh, let's see. If I take one away.
Yeah.
There it is. Yep. I got to fix that. So that'll take you to the About Us page about who are these people and about all the shows that we do and everything. And all the people that are in the network are tagged in here as well. And that are affiliated, like our friend Rich Slutsky. I got to get the Dissident back in here. I think I hid him. He's starting to write stuff again. All right. So we're going to take off. We're going to reset. We'll be back, say, 15 minutes, call 12:30. And we will be back for boats smashing into other boats. So, again, let me put up the donate, the subscribe and the support link one more time. So if you are able to support independent media, we really appreciate it. We could certainly use the support. Again, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. All these wonderful people have already done so. Cash App, Patreon, PayPal, Rumble. You see the links there on screen. If not, go to indienews.network. There's links to all of them there as well. So for me, I'll let him say goodnight on his own, but I'm going to say to keep supporting independent media because we need it more than ever. And I love you all for hanging out, watching, and we will see you again next week for another episode of How Do We Miss That? But we'll be back next for boats, and you should be redirected to it now automatically from YouTube if you just stick around after this. So, and Reef usually drops the link in the chat too. So, all right, everyone.
I think I already did.
We'll see you soon. Night.
Keep listening with little boats have to tell you. Good night, fam. See you in a bit.
Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
Thank you.